It's time for Colin's Corner. This is a time for a bit of reflection about all the stuff we've talked about. And I think it's very interesting, given all the concepts we brought up, the dangers of when a government acts in its own best interests and uses the public for those interests, as opposed to the other way around, which is the way that a government should ideally work. Like we brought up the trans athletes. That is something that is clearly being driven in as a wedge issue, despite the fact that they are an oppressed minority, but it is a minority group and they're being used as a political tool in this instance. You know, it's crazy that Liberal members only cared about women finishing first the second trans athletes came involved. Do you know what I mean? They're like, oh, they've got an unfair advantage. It's like, trans women stopped being men. I think they gave up that unfair advantage and you're upset about it. We had so many allegations come out in this government and ScoMo's response was like, well, I'm not responsible for them. I'm not responsible for these people, for Australians. Well, then what the fuck does the Prime Minister do? Like, that's your whole job. Do you know what I mean? He's like, oh, I don't hold the hose. It's like, motherfucker, you hold the tap. You're the guy that does it. He's not some lone anomaly. He's a symptom of a much larger issue within Australia. He didn't just luck his way into being PM. He was deliberately chosen. He was chosen by people who thought that he best represented their values, all right? Best represented political apathy, best represented tall poppy syndrome, of victim blaming, of avoiding the science. I mean, this was the reality of who he was, and we bear the responsibility for that. Between the Australia that would see those things as things we want to espouse in ourselves and our leaders and those that don't. And here's the thing, this show is going to come across like I'm shitting on Liberals all the time, but a lot of Liberal ideas I agree with. I agree with so much Liberal thinking, they just get to the wrong answer. He wants to gut Medicare. Imagine if he viewed Medicare the way that he viewed an NRL umpire. What do you mean you're going to give that away for free? You should be fucking hung! I think it was, this election boils down to this one key idea. It's something that Socrates said a long time ago. It's that if you want to support the new, it's the only way that change can come about. Because when you fight the old, those things waste energy and waste time. And we're in a position right now, we need to understand as Australians, there are decisions before us. This land was created on the idea of supporting the new. Whether it's our land, whether it's our oceans, even fire has that role. And we need to realize that this election is the difference between deciding, do we want to support the old growth of Australia, or do we want to support the new? Do we want to see the best in Australia continuously brought to the forefront, or do we want to allow the old growth and the outdated environment to come up? Josh, you can pump that shit right up because everyone knows it's a banger. So I guess when it comes down to this election, you have to ask yourself, do you want to vote for a policy and a government that shows the same ideas time and time again? Or do you want to understand that we have the opportunity now to say that's not good enough? And I want to give you guys a feeling. Give me a chance now. I want you to try and say it. That's not good enough. Give me one. Give me one, that's not good enough. A bit louder. When this government says that a woman a week dying from domestic violence is acceptable, that's not good enough. When this government says that Indigenous Australians don't deserve a treaty so they can't be part of this government, that's not good enough. When we want to give tax breaks to billionaires at the expense of our most impoverished citizens, that's not good enough. When we want to treat the news like it's something to be owned by rich billionaires, that's not good enough. When we want to sacrifice our future for their temporary short-sighted gain, that's not good enough. One more time, you motherfuckers, that's not good enough. So that they can hear you in Canberra, that's not good enough. So this May 21st, do what it takes for your country. Do what it takes to be the people that we can be and let those new Australians lead the way. Do it for Yagan, do it for Whitlam, do it for Curtin, do it for Freeman, do it for Cowan, do it for Mabo and fucking Irwin. This May 21st, say it in the way that only an Australian can and do what only an Australian can do and tell this cunt to get fucked.